And just tell us a little bit about you. Who are you, Kjell?
Well, you know me better than I.
Kjell is one of the most impressive visionaries of this planet.
Wow.
You have a life, many decades of international peace work connected to art. You are a music professor originally, here at the university for 30 years or more.
Yeah.
And you have always worked internationally and have connected music with peace work. And at the moment you are in Bangkok, and I have seen your office and the university there, and you have inspired our last conference and the 2008 conference and the 2016 conference. So you are really putting so much work, so much of your soul into building a world of dignity that it's just amazing. And
wow.
Could you come, Inga? Can we do that together?
Is there a doctor in the audience?
We would like to give you the Beacon of Dignity Award from the World Dignity University Initiative, and we want to honor you with that award.
Oh, thank you. You are the inspiration. You always be. You are behind everything.
You have to give a hug to Inga.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Wow, look at that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do it like that. Everybody can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Maybe you have some questions, I guess you have. We will use, we have time until 1 o'clock. Kirsten?
I have a very basic question. I'm not a researcher, I'm a librarian, but
Librarian here.
yes. Do you think that the feeling of dignity or the feeling of being humiliated is equal no matter which culture you come from? Is it very universal feelings to... Do you think so?
I think there are very many layers in there. There is a core layer that is perhaps human, and then there are very many layers. So just imagine the social worker who goes to a woman who is being beaten. And the woman says, okay, I'm beaten because my husband loves me, and it's my fault. And then the social worker says, but don't you see that you are being humiliated? He humiliates you, you should get angry. And she says, oh, okay. And she learns perhaps to feel humiliated. And then the social worker will say, yeah, good, I'm glad that you now feel humiliated, and you should also get a little bit angry so that you get yourself and your children into a safe house when the violence starts. Okay, she might get angry. And then the social worker says, you know, in Thailand, you know what is happening there? The women, they cut the penises of their husbands when they have affairs with other women, too many affairs. So there are lots of jokes in Thailand that men have ice boxes in the cupboard because a penis that has been cut off, if you put it into ice, it can be surgically put back. So, you know, of course, you know, the social worker doesn't want to make the woman that angry that she starts cutting off penises. It wouldn't be, perhaps it would go a bit far, and or you know, to get off the joke, Rwanda or you know, genocide. There you could say the feeling, the sense of humiliation went a bit too far, not a bit, much too far, and you see how it is a shifting thing, you know, and it's a shifting, and the most important difference is to me the way humiliation is felt when you think that a society is ordered in ranks, as compared to a society where you believe that everybody deserves equal, to be treated as equal in dignity. This is to me the most basic difference. In one, the feeling of humiliation is completely different in one as compared to the other. Often, very often, it's defined differently, felt differently. Like the woman, she's in this dominators culture or honor culture, whatever one wants, unequal dignity culture. She thinks that it's not humiliating to be beaten, perhaps even, and then she learns to feel humiliated, and then she learns that together with learning that she deserves equal dignity. So you see how this is connected.
I also have a number of, I have some remarks actually, and maybe a question in the end. You point out to the challenges and the risks from nuclear proliferation and industrial scale accidents actually. So that is something which is problematic. And if you see a number of the latest accidents in Fukushima and maybe other places, and also but there is what you're pointing out, the fact that there is the risk, but there is also, I think, international cooperation in order to deal with these issues. So I would probably be a little bit more positive about or point out some of the international cooperation, some of the positive examples of that kind of cooperation. And another point from your presentation that is quite interesting is this the change. Say 12,000 years ago, this expansion sort of stopped because the planet got inhabited. But I'm not quite sure that actually, and then conflict started. I'm not sure if conflict started then, or actually conflict has been there and has accompanied the human society from the beginning. And it was not because we couldn't expand into other territories, because I think until maybe the early 1900s, the Earth was thinly populated anyhow. There was not a huge population. So in terms of the world population, the expansion, the point of reference probably can actually be brought much closer, not 12,000 years ago, but maybe, I don't know, even in the late 1900s, probably. Another point which, or another remark that I have is at the end of the Cold War in the 1990s, there was a huge moment when we thought, okay, now we're living in one world and now we can make great progress forward. But I think a lot of people forget that the end of the Cold War probably meant the overt or the open competition between two broad ideologies, capitalism and communism. But in a sense, this competition, if you want, of ideologies has not stopped from that at that moment. And a final remark, and that brings me also to a certain question, to a question. You speak about this integration, cohesion, and harmony. And you look at the national, the regional, and the global. The way I'm looking at it is that we can probably have this global integration and harmony and cohesion without the national and the regional. So if we sort of look at it, if you look at the examples, then the EU experiment, if you want, would be something which shows that actually this regional integration, although not perfect, but brings, I can link that to the speeches of the US presidents about the perfect union. The European Union is not the perfect union, but maybe this regional integration is a sort of model through which we could probably build a global model where we can actually achieve this integration, cohesion, harmony, and where we respect the dignity. So I'm wondering now, how do you look at this at the process, from the national to the regional to the global? Is this sort of a walk from the national to the global? So is this a bottom-up, or is this a top-down kind of process, or is it both? What is your perspective? If we're going to achieve this, a world where, based on dignity, a just social order, a just global order, how do you look at this process, and where we are in that walk?
Oh, lovely. Well, I say a big yes to everything you said. The last point, the question. Please remember the 4 points that you made, because I wanted to comment on them. But let me, you have to remind me, but let me say to the last one. Of course, I think we for the global integration, we need the local, the national, and the regional experiences. That I didn't say that we don't need them. Of course, we need them. So what I always suggest is to harvest, to go around the world and harvest the best solutions. Like Europe, not to take Europe as a wholesale package, but to differentiate. As you say, there are very, very important lessons to learn from the development of the European Union. I was, in fact, a candidate for the European Parliament in 1994. So I went there and I studied that, and what really convinces me or impresses me is the concept of subsidiarity. Because that's a concept that makes unity in diversity operational. It means that for things that are local, the authority should also be local. It wouldn't be good that, for example, Haringfele, the violin in Norway, is regulated in some global capital. It would be very stupid. But it would be equally stupid to leave the global climate change interventions to every community on their own. It is important to coordinate that globally. So there are things that need to be decided locally, and there are things that need to be decided globally, and there needs to be processes that calibrate that. And there at the European Union is an amazing kind of university to learn that. You know, how people say, no, this shouldn't be regulated in Brussels. We should have the authority here. And Brussels is always taking too much of us and so on. So this is a very important lesson to learn from the European Union, this subsidiarity, and how it is being also always opposed and has difficulties to stay and everything. So the other thing, when you look at the European Union, it's a fortress. If you just look at these fences there, it's terrible. So as soon as a regional power builds a fortress against others, then we have a problem. So I always say, let's harvest, let's go around, subsidiarity, European Union, important lesson. Then Hawaii, let's study Ho'oponopono. Let's go to Somalia, let's study the pastoralist democracy. Let's go to all, the indigenous populations. I just spent this wonderful days in North Thailand in the Karen village, where they have developed the concept of the lazy man, which means the man who does not jump on the bandwagon of destruction, but, So we need to go to the indigenous populations. We need to go to the people who still know how to survive in the rainforest sustainably. And. So we need to harvest the best solutions wherever they are, and to honor them and to nurture them. So we need the local, we need the regional, we need the global, and we need to put it together. And it must be top down and, of course, bottom up at the same time. At the moment, I see too few people doing it top down. I see many people trying it bottom up. Everywhere in the world I go, there are small projects and initiatives that try to bring a different, a more dignified reality into the world. Local communities doing a lot of things. And I see, why do I not participate? Why do I not dedicate my life to one of these projects? Because I see that the overall context is destructing them at the moment when they get really impact. I see that small people, a group of people has a lovely idea, then they found an NGO, then they make a project plan, then they get some money, then they have an office, and then they carry out a wonderful project. In the moment where it gets more impact, the money is cut. And then you have cynical idealists. The world is full of cynical idealists that I meet who have wonderful projects. And so I see that. So at the moment I see that there's a lot of goodwill coming up, and it is cut the moment it gets really empty. Like in Brazil where I was. When you really stand up, you are murdered. You know, against the land grab and. So, and not just in Brazil. So, at the moment, what is lacking is people who are thinking globally and who are really putting their lives into thinking, how could a planet with a human family on it work in the long run in a dignified way? What different rules do we need? How do we have to change our institutions, our rules and regulations? We need a deep, deep, deep redefinition there. There I see there are too few people who do that. There's a lack of people there. The other, so at the moment I think, yeah, I would like to make a small comment to one of the points first. Whenever I talk about my work, there are 2 points that get people very angry. Often. Here, only 1 point came up. One point is often that people say, but equality in dignity, we don't want that. We don't want that everybody is the same. So they mix up equality with being the same, with identity, with being everybody identical. And I have to say, no, unity in diversity is the definition of dignity and equal dignity, not, you know, it's unity in diversity, it's not uniformity without diversity. So many people have big problems in understanding unity in diversity. They think okay, if we want unity, then we need to accept uniformity. Then we rather have division, I say. So, the other argument that makes people angry is what you also mentioned with the human nature. Are we, you know, where does conflict start? And where does war start? There is a very interesting documentary on Norwegian television just now. Menneskets første krig, humankind's first war, where a team of documentary filmmakers went around and tried to find where is the first war in history, in human history. And they interview the hawks and the doves. The hawks say human nature is violent. We are the killer ape. And it's, you know, very, very naive to believe that we ever could have peace because it's in our nature and in our genes and so on. And then there's the other camp who says, no, it's the situation that makes us warlike. And so this documentary is quite nice. I think if you click on Menneskets første krig, it's originally in English, now with Norwegian subtitles, you can see it on the internet. It's for another week available. It's lovely to see. It's nice to sit down and have half an hour. It takes an hour. So my personal conclusion from after 40 years of living globally is we are social beings, and out of that comes war. Easily, as soon as we are in a situation where resources are scarce, where circumscription hits us, then we get in a situation where we can't avoid conflict and war almost. You have this word in political science, security dilemma. It's a dilemma where everybody is caught. Like in Rwanda, did the people who were hacking to death their Tutsi neighbors, did they do that because they were killer apes? Or their nature gave them the lust to kill? No. They did it because they loved the Hutu cause more. And they felt that killing the others was necessary, and also because they really felt, it's a longer story, but they didn't kill just because they had a lust to kill. And then you have a lot of literature, how difficult it is to get soldiers to kill, and how psychologically damaged they are when they come back from war. And so the human nature is not made to kill, it's made to be social. And as soon as you are asked to protect your own group, then you will go to war. And you will teach the young males to go to war, because they are more dispensable in the community. The women are not needed to bring up the next generation. The young men are those who are most dispensable in a group. So if you want to survive as a group in a situation where others might come and attack you, like it happened in human history everywhere, then you train your young men to define it as an honor to die early in war. And then you have this patriarchal culture, and you end up with that men really identify with that. And then you have a kind of vicious circle. So I think this is how it developed. So I stand on the side, I think that this dichotomy of killer ape versus noble savage, these two camps, that this dichotomy is misleading. It's false. It's a false dichotomy.
I just have a small remark, and it's an old Indian saying that in every human being there are two wolves. One that wants, is full of hatred and wants to kill, and the other one is a loving wolf. And it all depends on who you are feeding. So that's another way of, looking at it. But it's there, so. Inga, do you want to say something?
It is a really fascinating presentation, thank you. And I just spend all day thinking about dignity. It's so nice to just be in a room with people talking about it. I have lots of questions, but I guess the question that I'd like to ask from the perspective of my research is whether you think you're thinking about dignity as a particular conception of dignity, or whether it's something else, because I'm not totally certain of the relationship between dignity and humiliation in your work. So I guess my question is dignity by definition the absence of humiliation, like humiliation was defined in 1775 as the violation of someone's dignity.
Mm-hmm.
Because that feels to me like a very particular conceptualization of dignity, and one that feels different from the way we think about dignity in the UDHR, for example, where you have this dignity, this kind of notion of inherent dignity. So I guess my question is whether I'm writing a paper at the moment in which I look at the way different courts around the world use dignity to mean humanness, to somehow encapsulate something fundamentally about the human, either as legal subject or just as being. And I try and work out what the implications are for how we define nature, because of course there's a long history of defining dignity in opposition to nature. So it was about what humans are when they are not the beast, right? But this seems to me to be something quite discrete. Dignity is the absence of humiliation. Feels maybe like something different, but perhaps I'm wrong.
When I started I started with studying humiliation, and then I came more and more into dignity and honor. It comes from observation, not from theory, because of this living globally. And when, for me, the biggest difference or dichotomy is really when you think, here I am. This is the sense of my worth that you would have to look at me to see what I do now.
Sorry. Stop taking
No. So if I respect myself so much, and I respect you so much, then we are on one level. Likeverd, equal dignity. This is a universe where everything that follows is different as compared to a world where I say, this is me, and you are either above me or below me.
Right.
These to me are the two fundamental normative ethical universes. And the word, the mere word dignity fits in both.
Right.
Decorum, a dignitary is a person who is higher. So the word dignity says nothing.
Right.
So in the past, in a decorum, Cicero I think, or says decorum. So the word dignity can be used in the ranked universe, and it has a completely different standing and function, everything in a world where everybody thinks that everybody should be equal in dignity. I think this is the biggest difference. And the word dignity alone says nothing. It can be the opposite. It can mean the opposite of the other. It depends in which context it is embedded.
This is what I like about it.
Yeah, and natural law, you know, it's that context. What I see is, if I look at the history of human beings, then I see that the last 5% we live in societies where they were ranked, dominator model of society, most of us. And I think people are right who say that before the Neolithic Revolution, we lived in small groups where there was no deep hierarchy in the structure of the group, but more egalitarian groups. It's very difficult. This is a long discussion, but I tend to believe that this is the right conclusion. Not least because I see that during the past 5% of our history, we see always the attempt to undo that ranking system. Like the founders of religions always started, we are equal. Jesus, you know, going to the prostitute, or Sikh religion, Islam, they have a strong notion of equality in dignity in the beginning, until they are eaten up by the ranked context and they become a ranked hierarchical church, etc. So I see that there is a sense in the bodies, in the souls of us human beings, that the equality in dignity concept is the right one for us. We come from there, and that we have to bow, we have to be beaten into bowing, you know, often. We have to be, you know, it's a lot of effort to keep dominated societies in place. We have Hegel, the slave, the master slave. In 700 after Christ, there are two kings in France, and they didn't do this dominating work, you know, beating, torturing, or even only seating orders. You know, they didn't do that well enough, so they were toppled. And how are they called? Lazy kings, because they didn't do the dominator work. So to keep people in the ranking order is hard work. People don't really, it's not really easy. And then, okay, so now I think we link up to when we talk about equality and dignity, we link up to that time before the Neolithic, or we should, revolution, and we don't find many people in the world who have that in their bodies, but we all see that. In Rwanda, for example, I was asked not to ask a person whether this person had a Hutu or Tutsi background. It's not good to speak about that there. And they said to me, just look at them, at their bodies. A Hutu with a Hutu background for centuries has been taught to bow. So the body language of a Hutu will be like that. And just look at the Tutsis, the elite, they will be like that. Just look at the body. So it's in the body. To me, I think dignity now, if people ask me, it's one of the most difficult thing to define theoretically, but it's in the body. It is felt. It is when you are on the same line with others. People have a feeling, a embodied feeling for that. And some people, for them, it's too difficult. In Japan, to me, the experience was there really. Wherever I am, I try to make another person feel equal to me. And some people are very happy and astonished when somebody who's sweeping, like here in this institute, or wherever in the institutes here, you have people from Ethiopia or from Tamils or so and I ask them for their name and the family, and so I don't regard them as invisible. I go there and they are happy. In Japan, I did that with people like operating the elevator. They wouldn't want that. So there it's very strong hierarchy. So so it's in the body. It's something that we have almost all been socialized into a ranking system, and we now come out here, at least in the West, into an equal dignity. So the point for me is equal dignity as compared to unequal dignity. This is for me the important transition, not dignity alone. And then we are now entering this, and nobody is socialized into that. Of course, none of us is socialized into how to be a person that is equal in dignity, except Norway, because Norway has never been really deeply embedded into an empire. So people, like in Rwanda, the Hutus really for centuries were taught to bow. In Norway, nobody did that work. The farmers have each their farms, and they are the little philosopher. Every farmer his own king or his own philosopher. You don't see the villages where you have the castle with a knight at the top. You don't see that. Why? Because Norway is so far away and nothing to steal here in the past. So it's not worth to come here and to build an empire, really. So the Danes had 200 people in Christiania and left the rest of Norway more or less untouched. So the notion of that each person is worth something and has a right to speak out is stronger here. I find that when I travel, wherever I go, the embodied equality in dignity is difficult to explain. People don't have that direct access, except in Norway. In Norway, I see that people have a direct access to what it means to be equal in dignity. The others have a hope, a dream, but difficult to have an equal access. Like the woman who is beaten. It's not easy to teach her to stand up. It's very difficult to teach her to stand up. She wants it, but then she can't. So in Norway, therefore, I really regard Norway as the main platform of my work. I spend at least 2 months per year here. Also, for a woman, I feel that when I come, for example, visit my parents in Central Europe, I feel I shrink, or in the United States, I feel I shrink because women are not listened to, not looked at. And then I come here, and then, oh, I have to be careful what I say because people listen to me. So, Norway has, due to its history of being far away, geopolitically marginal, I think it was spared this thorough training in bowing, and therefore has kept a culture of standing upright, which is of course being lost now through the ideology of the market. Oh yeah, the rich one, they deserve to be rich because they were so good, and therefore, so the inequality is seeping in here too, of course now. And so it's being lost, but it is a heritage. Come in.
Yeah.
Come in.
Okay.
Sit down.
Skal vi forstyrre avslutningen?
We are soon closing, I think. Do you have any more questions? Or do you have? But now you have the information. That's the most important thing. You have the website information and as well the email address for Evelin. And Evelin will also be a guest researcher, a guest lecturer here at the center. So you can meet her here in the future. So thank you so much for being here with us today, and thank you so much, Evelin. I have so
I knew, I saw Patrick coming.
Yes. This is just a small thing for you. Thank you so much for wonderful lecture.
I said thank you to you.
She will be here now until
Vi
August,
skulle vært
and then
klokken
she will
12.
be back.
Ja.
You will
Men
be here
jeg
until
visste
Yeah, not here, but in Norway. We've gathered in Norway.
Jeg hadde
We've gathered
en
in.
avtale for sykehuset.
So she will be
And then be in January,
Yeah.
until February again.
Ja da.
Så de ble ikke
Jo,
ferdige.
men du kjenner
So you
vel
write
Thank you
to
for
me?
the presentation.
Evelin,
You will write to me in English?
kjenner hennes,
Men jeg vet jo ikke akkurat i dag.
hennes konsept.
And Dina,
Men jeg visste at du skulle få
I'm actually
Det var hyggelig.
Det var veldig hyggelig.
Men dette ble tatt opp på video.
So actually,
Så dette foredraget det vil da foreligge
is looking at how
online.
they have treated the concept of dignity. So that might actually be something
Is it
interesting. So
also
there
officer
goes.
here at the center?
Jo, det var veldig
We haven't
fint i dag.
formally met.
Det er det jeg sitter
Yes,
på.
yeah. Nice to meet
Lovely
you.
to meet you.
Yeah. So that's
Og
actually
der
might
kommer
be
det,
something to
det kommer den 23. på Folkemuseet for å feire henne, da. Det blir jo veldig bra.
Viktig. Viktig. Tenkte at vi kanskje skal ha en
tour
liten
it
prat
around
før
it.
det.
Of course,
Hva tror du?
Dina will look at it thoroughly,
Ja.
but I can make some cursory
Noen som har meldt seg
references
til
to it.
Norge. Det er veldig bra.
Ja, nettopp. Jeg vet ikke hvilke muligheter man har der ute, men
Lovely.
det ordner seg.
Thank you.
Så det er jo samtalsaften, og der foregår ganske mange.
Tusen takk.
Vi må finne ut hvor vi skal være. Så vi kan
Så
ha
bra at vi har det til oss.
privacy.
Ja,
Legger det ut på
det,
YouTube.
kan, det er ikke
Inga,
helt
shall I
lett,
take
for det er
one
masse
of these
mennesker der.
upstairs?
Yes,
To the-
please.
to the-
Yes.
Det var ikke så veldig lurt.
Do that.
Jo, det går jo bra, det. Man,
Yes.
og
Så selv om det går så mange
Det er så
å
fint.
inkorporere
Ja.
hele altså befolkningen i hyllene.
Ja.
Det blir jo det på en måte. Nei, det er jo ting for barn, og det blir også en konsert, da. Pleier å bli det der ute.
Og så er det noen som spiller som har bedt om å få gjøre det, og så er det noen som har et skuespillerpar som vil gjerne 10 minutter av en forestilling. Som fra alle tider.
Det hadde jo vært enormt bra.
Jeg må bare hilse.
Jeg gjør det.
Så jeg må lære mer om det